Begin the current Daf, the Mesech Kesuvos Daf, Pei Hey, begin 10 lines down at the top of the Yomid, but the Gemara continues with the halacha from the previous Daf regarding this machlekes of the Kiva and Tarfin that we had, regarding how it works with tfisa, if you could grab from the person that owes money, la'achar miso, or do you have to grab it mechayim, that they have machlekes. We explained that opinion of Reb Tarfin, is in Shasarab, even by a simta. That's what the Gemara continues on this opinion of Rabbi Kiva that one cannot grab, as the last words on this amid from the previous daf. They recorded Bahusha Tavs Mechayim. It's only if you grabbed it Mechayim, but if you grab Lachamisa, it's not going to be effective. It's already considered in the shus of the Yershim. The Gemara is going to continue with another story relating to that halacha. Shis Kohen Spaz Bekazak and the Cheskel Turning Time Daf Chaim. I'm joining you today's daf. Something that's discussed in today's daf, like we mentioned, is that regarding the halacha of Rabbi Kiva. He says tfisa mechayim mahanya. If you grab from your creditor when he's still alive, that's effective. Tfisa lachamisa, now it's already b'shus the yershim, the yisleimim. That's behind. It's not going to be effective anymore. You can't collect these movable items from the yisleimim. Gemara brings a case of a safeguarder who is types mechayim and explains specifics of that story. Some important terms and concepts in today's daf are mechzik shikol le'amrina. We don't say that it looks like that it's false and therefore would be problematic. Regarding one that claims a safeguard item after the safeguarder passed away, so what's unique about that is that if someone is a shemer pekadmi, is guarding something, and ultimately it's in his possession, but it's not really in his possession, because when the person is alive, they were just watching it as it's always b'shus of the mother. It was just a pekadmi, but the person was owed money also, so that's the shaila how we're going to explain that regarding if it's considered tfisa mechayim or not. And then the Gemara ends off with a case of ha'oima nichsel tuvia. Someone's passing away, he's a shchimra, and he says, I want my estate to go to Tuvia, but he didn't specify which Tuvia, how we're going to know, how we're going to qualify which Tuvia is the one that gets it. So we begin the current Daf Pehei, 10 lines down at the top of the Yomid. Again, the Gemara is continuing from the halacha of Rabbi Kiva regarding Tfisa Mechayim is Mahanya, Tfisa Lachamisa is Loy Mahanya. So the Gemara brings that Avimi, Berei de Rebavo, have a maske Zuzi. So they were collecting from him money. There was creditors by Bechazoi, which were the people of that country. So so he sent it through this Chama Berei de Rabba Baravu, and also Perinu, he went and he paid him up. So Amalahu, so he said to them, to the people that he paid up, this agent, said, so give me the document, give me the document that talks about the debt that is owed. So Amalei, they said to him, no, it's Sitraininu. Sitrain is like from the word of Sitra, like from the side. Meaning, this was something else that he owed us, was an oral loan. It's for that loan that you paid us up. But we're not giving you back this document of the debt that was written in the document, because that's some other monies. So also coming to Rebavo, he came back to Rebavo, meaning Rebavo was the father of Avimi. Amalei said to him, Islach Sahadi Tiprasinu, do you have witnesses that you paid them up? Amalei says, no, I just paid them up, I went to pay them. Amalei said to him, Migui, since they could say that this never happened, you didn't pay them up. They could also now say, there was other monies. And therefore, obviously now they still have a document of debt outstanding against his son, Avimi. So the Gemara says, "Le'in shlume shliach." This that the shliach, this Chama Berei de Rabba Baravu, regarding to the one who sent him to this Avimi. What's the halacha? Is he considered negligent because he gave back the money before he didn't receive the document, and therefore he'd be obligated to pay to the one who sent him, or not? Some Rav says Chazina. Let's see. It depends on the wording that the Mishalech had told him before. If the Mishalech, if Avini had told him, if his words were like this, take the document and give the money, Mishal, you got to pay. Of course, you were told to first take the document. You don't pay, you first say, give me the document, I'll pay. But if he told him, give the money and take the document, but Mishal doesn't have to pay because he gave the money, and then he's asking for the document. He said, no, it's some other money. So that wouldn't be his problem. But the Gemara actually concludes, not like Rav Ashi. It's not true. Benkach or Benkach Mishalim. Either way he has to pay. Even if he had first said that give the money and then get the document. Why? But the Malay says to him, I sent you to remedy this situation, not to make it worse for me. And like the way Rashi says, you should have been careful to make sure that it works out okay. And therefore, no matter what the wording that he told him, even if he didn't specify this, it says that you obviously, as a shliach, he's supposed to make it better, and therefore he would be obligated to compensate him for that mistake in his agency of paying up the debt. Now another story relating to this halacha says, Gemahi Itza. There was a woman, and this story relates more to the previous daf. They have a mifkede gaba. They had deposited by her, meaning the father of the orphans, had deposited by her malayga d'shtada, a sack full of, a container full of documents, meaning full of deeds. So also Yarshim Ketabalam, so now the inheritors came along and says, okay, we know our father had given you all these deeds, these documents to watch. It's in your safe box. You had a safe box. My father gave it to you. Now give it to us. So he said to the Yarshim, your father owed me money. And when he was still alive, I had taken possession of these deeds. I'm taking it for the collection for all the money that he owed me. So Suli came to Rav Nachman. They came in front of Rav Nachman. So Allah, he said to her like this. He said, do you have witnesses that the father had claimed the documents from you when he was still alive? And could the witnesses testify that even though he was claiming it from you, you didn't give it to him, which essentially would be qualified as a tfisa? So Amrullah, she said to him, no, I don't have witnesses that I did it. So said Rav Nachman like this. He says, if that's the case, have a tfisa lachamisa. That's considered grabbing it after he's dead. Why? Because as long as he was alive, those deeds by you were a deposit. It was like it was in his possession. And just like we say when you grab, meaning when we say Yitfisa Michaim is, for example, let's say a guy's about to die, and someone goes over and quickly grabs his car or grabs his jacket for a debt, which was not a deposit by him. But over here, these deeds were a deposit by you, which means to say that it was his. You can't grab it. Grabbing would only be if he's saying, give it back to me, and you're saying, no, I refuse to because of all the debts that you owe me. And so therefore, since it's considered Tvis Lachamisa, like Lumi, that's nothing. And therefore, you have to give it back to the Yarshim. The Gemara continues a related discussion, Hahi Itza. There's a certain woman, again, also Hahi Itza. But it's unrelated specifically what we're talking about, but again, it's another Hahi Itza that's in a related vein. That a person was claiming money from her, and she was denying the claim, and therefore she was obligated in an oath in the court of Rava. So Amalei Bas Rav Chizda, so the daughter of Rav Chizda, who was the wife of Rava, so she was there, her husband's the Grace of dying, she was there maybe delivering lunch to him, whatever it was. She sees this court case going on. She tells her husband, this woman, she's going to take an oath. She's suspect regarding oath. She swears all the time, and she doesn't keep her word. So there's no point in having her swear that she doesn't owe the money. So after Rava l'shua connected. So what did Rava do? Rava switched the tables. He had that the claimant is going to swear and collect, which the Mishnah teaches in Mesech Shavuos of Amdalma Beis that although generally you're nishboin when you swear, it's the defendant who swears and he gets himself off. There are certain cases, there's certain exceptions that you're called nishba b'naitel. You swear and you collect. That's usually not the case. Usually the defendant swears and is off the hook. One of the cases that you swear and you collect is what's called shekenegdei chashad ala shavua. If the defendant is suspected regarding the oath, so we're not going to make them take an oath because they're suspected. That we don't assume they're saying the truth. That's one of the cases that we make the collector swear. So Rava switched it over here, and he had the collector swear and collect. Now the Gemara continues the story that Zimna at a different time. They were sitting in front of Rav Rava. Who was sitting in front of Rav? Rav Papa, Rav Bamasna, and Isa who started Gabay. So again, they're sitting in front of the roof, the Dayan, and a star comes in front of him. So Amalei Rav Papa, who was one of them sitting in front of Rava, tells Rava, he says, I know that document has been paid up already. Some guy's trying to slip it into the court to collect. Says, I know, by the way, that there's a paid up document. So Rava says to Rav Papa, is there another person that could join with you, master, to be a witness to testify that this was a paid up document? The Eloi says, no, I'm the only one. I was there with Reuben and Shimon, I saw it being paid up. So Amalei said to him, look, Hafagav the Ikamar, although there's the master saying this idea, but one witness is nothing. I can't do anything based on your singular testimony. So only Rabbi Masna, who was the other Amoyer over there, he says to Rabbi, okay, but below your Papa Kabas Rav Chizda, shouldn't Papa be at least like your wife? You trusted your wife to suspect the oath to make that it should be Nishba V'Naitlin, that to say she can't swear. Shouldn't you at least consider a Papa as much as your wife, that you should consider that you shouldn't collect with this document? So says Rava like this. It says, Bas Rav Chizda Kimli Begava. My wife, I know that she's not lying. So I trust her. So therefore she says that this woman is suspect regarding oath. I'm not going to take an oath. Marla Kimli Begava. I don't know. Rav Papa, I don't know. You're a grace and tzaddik, but I don't know definitively if you have to have another 8. So Amar Papa, so when Papa heard this about himself, he said, okay, let me take it one step further. Now that the master says Kimli Begave Milsi, that if someone could say, Ich ken him, I know this person, and if you could go based on that, so then could go in Abba Mori Bri. So then my son Abba Mori, you might recognize this by the 10 sons of Rav Papa. Abba Mori, my son Abba Mori, he's the Kimli Begave. I know him that he would never lie. So if he tells me, when I'm sitting in my own bezdin, and he tells me that I know for sure that this has been paid up, I'm going to tear it up based on what he's saying. So the Gemara says, you really think to say that you're going to rip up? You think one witness is trusted? Not only trusted, but that you could take a signed document from someone who's muchzik in it? Because as Rashi explains, tearing up a document would be what's called afuke b'mayna. You'd be extracting money, because the guy's document is star amid legavis kagavinam. It's like monies. You need 2 people to tear up a document. How could you say you would tear up the document based on your son of a money? Now the Rebbe says the Gemara no marianish. What I would do is I would create a flaw in the document based on what he's saying. Meaning I wouldn't collect with that document. You're right. I wouldn't tear up the document because that you need 2 witnesses for. But I wouldn't collect with the document because of the halacha of kimli b'gavei. I know he's telling the truth. I wouldn't collect based on. I wouldn't tear it up, but I wouldn't collect with that based on that principle. Like Gemara brings another story of Itza, again another woman that's a related vein of just the similar sounding stories. She was obligated in an oath in the court of Rabbi Ba'abai. So her litigant, the one who was claiming money from this woman who had to swear, said to the courts, could she come and make her take an oath in the city? Why? Because it's going to be embarrassing. Everyone knows that she owes me the money. She'll be embarrassed. She'll admit. Instead of making it here in the court.
Isn't it more than a miktas only that's in shiur?
So there's different types. There's kaifah chayv and shvus hesses. If you rabbinically you're chayv an oath if there's even a kaifah bakol. So yeah, but depending which type of oath, either one. They said make her take it in the city, then she'll be embarrassed. She'll admit. So
if there was 1/8.
Well, yeah, 1/8, right. So Amalahu, she said to them, no problem, because really zachvasa, right for me that I came to court and I was exempt from this person by taking an oath. That when I'll take the oath, they'll give it to me. Meaning, you want me to take it in the city? Fine, but I want the court to write for me that I took this oath and that I'm exempt. So that when I do make it there in the city, they'll give it to me. So Rabbi said to them, okay, Kis will write of this document from the court. So Rabbi said, because you come from cut off, meaning the household of Eli, which their days are cut off because they live a short time. So you say cut off statements, meaning you say things that are not appropriate. Because Rabbi said, Hayasharta Didaini. The word Asharta is from the word of like Yashikechacha, which is a terminology of strength, of strengthening. So if a person is This Ashar to the Daini, which is basically a validation of a document that the judge is right. The judges write, oftentimes on a document, they write what's called Moisiv Talasa Havina. They say, okay, we were an assembly of three. Basa Pliny, such and such a people came, and they testified regarding their signatures. Basharinu Bekamina, we are validating it, we are certifying it. So that's what's called Ashar Tadayin. It's basically a certification with a stempel. The Bezdin writes on the document that this is a valid document. So Rava said that type of a certification of the judges, the Michtavim Mikmei, which the judges wrote it, they know they're waiting for Reuben and Shimon to come at 12 o'clock appointment. It's already 12:15, so they start writing already. It's, we're going to wait till they come. They said, well, let's write it already. And when they come, so then we'll give it. Before they testified that this is our signature, they already wrote the whole Ashar Tadayin. It says, Rabba Psul, it's invalid. Why? Because Almi, Michzik Shikr. It looks, obviously, because it looks like it's a lie. How can you guys write that they came and testified what they didn't? So that was Rabbi's halacha. So on that says Rab Papi, Hachanami Mechzik Shikra. How could you write that this woman took an oath when she didn't take an oath yet? She wants the documents because I'm going to go to the city. He wants to embarrass me. No problem. I'll go there and I'll make the oath. Just write for me that I did it. So, how can you say that they should write it for her? How is this different than Rabbi's halacha of the Ashar Tadayin that looks like a lie? You can't write it before they testified. Hirosa, how could you write for her that she took an oath before she even took an oath? But Shimon says, bless, that's not a problem. From Rav Nachman. Because Amar Rav Nachman, he says, Meir who said, if let's say you find a get in the garbage dump, where some guy had a change of heart, and although he wanted to divorce his wife, but this Reuben and Leah, Reuben decided he's not going to do it. Now, another guy, Reuben, he's upset at his wife, Leah. And he's walking by a garbage, he goes, shkacha pratis, look at this. A get that says Reuben and Leah. So a guy goes ahead, takes the document, the get, and he has witnesses sign it and he gives it up. Says Rameh, it's going to be kosher. Why is it going to be kosher? So the main point that the Gemara is trying to prove is that we're not concerned that it looks like shikra mitzad kesiva, because here you had it written before you even were deciding to even divorce the woman, and says the Gemara, even the Rabbanan, like Pliga Led Meir, that say it's invalid, it'll be Giti Nashim. Why would they say Giti Nashim is going to be valid? Because the being Kesiva Shema. That's because it says in the term B'chasav law, Shahomachlekes, what does B'chasav mean? Is it the Chasima? Is it the Kesiva? But they hold that B'chasav law means that you need to have the writing be done for the sake of this layer, not just for any layer. Abashar Shtaris, but for other documents. Ma'yulei, they would agree to him. Why would they agree to him? Because the Gemara follows up with another halacha. Because it says, Shtar Shalaba Boy Paroi. If you have a document that a person borrowed with, and he paid up that same day, so the halacha is, you cannot go ahead and take another loan with that same document, even the same day, even though it's not a problem what's called muktim. Generally, you can't use the same one, obviously, because if you're going to do it a month later with the same document, it's going to be predated. And then the lender is going to be able to collect from the kuches that the borrower sold to inappropriately. No, even the same day, on the same day of the loan, you can't go back and borrow the same one. Why? The reason is because the moment that the owner, the moment the borrower paid up the debt, the document was void. Comes out that the second loan is an oral loan because it's not really written for that loan. So the shibudim, which means to say that his incumbent properties, meaning that whatever he sells off is indebted to the lender, is actually not correct. The lender is not going to collect from the kuches because the loan was not going on that document. It was now an oral loan, so you can't use that same document. Okay, but one thing says the Gemara is Tamid Nichal Shibudah. The reason is because of the shibud was nimchal. So you're going to run into a problem that he's going to be collecting from the kuches from the nechasim mishabadim, which he has no right to. Avol lemechsi beis kishikra. But regarding the problem that it looks like a lie because it wasn't written on this loan, it sounds like loy chashinan. That we would not be concerned unless if, like, again, because it's a bitl of the shtar, because of the fact that it was only for the first loan, the second loan, but because of mechzi kishikra, that we wouldn't be concerned. Which again is the same thing we're showing by the halacha of matzah gitei nashim. If you find the get in the ashba, there also again everyone agrees it's only because of secondary reasons maybe it would be a problem. But for Mexican shikr, it wouldn't be. So therefore, says the Gemara, there's no problem about Mexican shikr. This that you're bringing me from the halacha of the ashar to the daini is because that's regarding chasimos. That's regarding signing. But regarding writing is no problem. We could write that this was done even though it wasn't done yet. There's no problem about Mexican shikr. Now the Gemara continues regarding, going back to the thing we mentioned before, regarding Yidanabe, that if I know regarding this person, their status, before we talk about regarding Kimli B'Gaveh, I know he's not going to lie, but similar ideas about regarding knowing the identity and the personality of the person. The Gemara brings the following story. Hu Gavra. There was a certain person, the Afkid Sheb Marganisa, who deposited 7 pearls, the Tzaidi B'Sadina, that was wrapped in a cloth, and it was deposited by Beira Miyosha Bar B'Deidre B'Shu Ben Levi. That's who was deposited by. Now Shochav B'De Miyasha. So Miyasha, the one who was watching these pearls, he passed away. B'Lei Paket. Now he didn't tell his family members because he passed away suddenly, and he didn't tell them that whose pearls these were. So also came to Ravami. So they came from the Ravami to claim from the Yershim. The Yershim says, maybe this was our father's. How do we know? So Amar Lahu, he said to them, no, I'll tell you why. Chada, first of all, the I know your father was not a wealthy man. And therefore, there's no reason for us to assume that these 7 pearls are his. Moreover, second reason is Kayab Samana. But the claimants are giving a sign, and they're saying that it's 7 pearls wrapped in a cloth, and that's what it is. So therefore, we're going to assume that it's these people's. Now, however, says the Gemara, we didn't say this at the only if this claimant was not a regular visitor to their Miyasha's house. But if let's say he was someone that was always visiting their house, I could say that maybe, yes, although Miyasha is not wealthy, but maybe someone else deposited. How do they know the Simonim? Maybe because this guy who always was coming into the house, he saw it. And therefore, it wouldn't be a raya, and then they wouldn't be entitled. But if a guy never goes, then we would say that it's his. Similar story says the Gemara, Hu Gavra, the Afkid, and all these stories, and have a few of these stories, all the same theme. Hu Gavra, the Afkid, Kasam de Kaspa Bechasa. A certain man that deposited a silver becher, a silver cup, by the house of Chasa. Shachav Chasa, B'lei Pakin. Again, Chasa passed away, and he didn't tell his family because the Rashi brings in the Gemara in Yavamis, in the last paragraph of that he drowned in the river. So obviously he didn't have time to tell his family about all his famegin. So also coming to Rabbi Nachman, they came in front of Rabbi Nachman. So here also, we said to them, look, we know this such a zil bin becha doesn't make sense that Chasa was not a wealthy person. That's first of all. And this other person, the claimant, is giving a sign exactly what type of goblet this was. Now, again, and the same, there's nothing but nothing lost him. Only if this person is not someone who commonly comes in and out of the house. If someone that's coming out and he takes a look at the china closet and he's always looking in and he sees, hey man, in the Shachrin Efker, I could say you're right, although this individual Chasa was not a wealthy person. Maybe someone else deposited him. This person that just seen it now is Siglist of him, now that Chasa passed away, so he's coming in and it's his, and then for them we wouldn't say it's necessarily his. Another story. Who the Afkid Metachsa? The person who deposited a silk garment by Rav Dimi Achud Rav Safra, by the house of Rav Dimi, the brother of Safra. Shachar Rav Dimi B'lei Paket. Rav Dimi passed away, and he didn't say anything about his belongings, so we didn't know whose garment this is. So also came to Rav Abba, came in front of Rav Abba. Amalu said to them, look, Chada, first of all, the Yadan Beit Rav Dimi G'layimad. We know that Rav Dimi was not a wealthy person. As a Zadna, Bekisha, whatever, this is not going to be, we're not assuming that it's his. This other person gave a simon, so we're assuming that it's his. But again, we didn't say that this person is not accustomed to Ayal B'Nafil that he comes in and out of the house. Someone that's always coming in and out of the house, even in Shachrin Afkir, I can say someone else deposited by him. But you mentioned Chasim, they just happened to have seen it, but then we would not award it to him. Now the Gemara continues, similar to the theme of that a person that he didn't say beforehand about whose it is. Like we said, loy pocket, we said that, we don't know whose it is. So similar over here, but a little bit qualitative. Hahu da amalahu. So there's a person that said to his family members, when he was passing away, he gave a tzava that nechasai l'toivya, that my assets should go to Tovya, but he didn't say which Tovya. Shochav, he passed away. So also Tovya. So Tovya came. Amar Yechanan, he says that above Tovya. So okay, Tovya came. However, let's say Amar Tovya, let's say he said Tovya. But Rab Tovya, and Rab Tovya comes. So it says the Gemara, Tovya, he said to Tovya, Rab Tovya, he didn't say to Rab Tovya. So therefore, he wouldn't give it to this Rab Tovya. But but if let's say this was a person that he was very friendly with, okay, I'll gisbe. So he's very friendly with him. And since he's friendly, he calls him by his name, as if it wasn't that person that had smicha. You say, what do you mean? This is, we're friends, Sammy, it's Shmuel. No, yeah, we played ball together, you know what I'm saying? So, again, so he would say, it makes sense that he would say Tovya even though he was Rav Tovya. So you would still give it to Rav Tovya. Now, Asa Shnei Tovya. Now, let's say there's two Tovyas come along. One's a shachin, one's a neighbor. He must have met me. We're next to neighbors. We lived together for 50 years. I'm a Talmud Chacham. There's a Talmud Chacham Tovya. He comes to collect the money. Says the Gemara, you know who gets it? Talmud Chacham Kaidem. Why the Talmud Chacham? We were best friends. We're neighbors for years. Says the Gemara, it says Rashi, we could presume that a person would be matzdik maisav. That person would make his actions justice, righteous, lazakes b'shas mesa, to merit at the time of death. Why? What do you mean merit? Why are you giving it to Talmud Chacham? Because the Gemara tells us in Brachas of Lamdama Beis, all the prophets didn't prophesize, but to someone that benefits to Talmud Chacham from his nachas. I mean, Talmud Chacham, ayin lo asal kimsul sefer. But what did all the prophecies of all the lights and everything was only for someone that's mahal Talmud Chacham. So the guy's passing away and he's saying for Tovya, he didn't mean his next door neighbor who is mamish, they would go shooting and whatever they would. No. It means the Talmud Chacham Tovya, even though he barely spoke to me, he's in shul, the guy would sit in the corner, he must have meant that Tovya, because he wants to be Mahana Talmud Chacham. Now let's say it's a Karev with Talmud Chacham. A relative, not a neighbor, a relative of Talmud Chacham. Says, Talmud Chacham Kayim again. The Talmud Chacham comes before his cousin, his nephew, whatever, Tovya. No, he meant Rav Tovya. Like, well, the following question. What happened if one of them is a neighbor and one of them is a relative? What's the halacha? So Shema, it's a pasuk in Mishlei. Toiv shochin karev. Better is a close neighbor me'ach rachik, from a distant brother. Meaning he could be his brother, Tovya, a relative, and he has his neighbor Tovya. He says, give it to Tovya. Which Tovya does it mean? So now you know how important neighbors are, more than the brother. That if you're going to say Tovya, it's going to mean the neighbor the Tovya and not the brother the Tovya. Now, what happens if Shneim Karev, unless your brother's your neighbor too? What happens if Shneim Karev, let's say they're both relatives, or Shneim Shchenim, they're both neighbors, or Shneim Chacham, they're both Tamidei Chachamim. So here the halacha is, because now you can't say it's one over the other, they both have the same characteristic, is Shuda Dedain. So the well-known machlek is Rashi Tesa, which is brought over here in this daf. Shuda Dedain means to say literally that the way it's thrown, the judges, the way they see fit, Rashi says, that what? That they would think that this is the norm of this person that passed away. No, he was much closer with this person than that person. Or that who of the two of them would be good and appropriate to say that that's the one that the mess had in mind to merit. That's what Rashi says. Taisus says, not like Rashi. Taisus says, it's that the dayan gives to whoever he sees fit. That's the machlekes Rashi and Taisus of Shuda Dedayin. Is it that, when we say it's up to their discretion, do we say that it's who they think must have been that the person meant, which sometimes it takes a little bit seich, a little bit, detective work? Or the way Rabbeinu Tam says it, that no, that they get to decide now. Since it's not clear from the guy, we choose who we want to give it to. That's machlekes Rashi and Taisus, what it means Shuda Dedayin. Now the Gemara continues, only Rabbi Lebreded of Chiv Arav, he says, Ta, Eimalach, come, I'm going to tell you, Milsa Mal Yusa, some beautiful teachings that your father used to say. He says, hold on, Shmuel. This is Shmuel says, if someone sells a document of a debt to his friend, so basically someone owes him money. So here he has a debt of $10,000. He sells it to someone else. Hey, I'll give you $8,000, for the $10,000 document. The chazar, and then the seller of the document, who is the lender, goes and he pardons the borrower for the money that's owed him. Machal, it's actually pardoned. Now the borrower could tell the one who bought the document. He says, "La ba'advam b'diyat, you're not my litigant. The lender is, and he was meichel to me." And actually, I feel like Irish. Even the inheritor of the lender could be meichel. Now, however, this is what he says. But Shmuel agrees. If a woman gets married and she brings in her nichsi melug, she brings in a shtar chayv to her husband, and then she's meichel that debt that was owed to her. So when she was a single girl, she was racking up hard money loans. She has all this money that's owed to her, and she gets married, and then she brings it to her husband. If she goes and she pardons those people, because look, I'm starting a new life, she'ena machal, not pardoned. Why not? Because his hand is like her hand, and she has no ability to be meichel. So although Shmuel said that the lender, even after he sells it, could go to be meichel, but a wife to a husband, his rights to her are just as equal, and therefore she cannot be meichel those shtarei chayv that was owed to her that she brought into the husband with the nixim melug. Now the Gemara brings a story related of Kriv Siddur Rav Nachman, the relative of Rav Nachman. That's important because we're going to see about him getting involved to his relative. Zivinta l'ksubasa. So she sold her ksuba, meaning, what do you mean she sold her ksuba? Ksuba is a piece of paper. There's a shibud of a ksuba, which if she's going to get divorced, that she's going to have a collection. She sells that lien of her ksuba to others when she was still married to her husband. But tebas hana. Tebas hana means to say like for a small amount, which is only like giving thanks, because whoever's buying this is really taking a risk. Because if she dies when her husband is still alive, so he's not going to collect anything. So therefore, a person is afraid to invest in that. So he gives a little bit amount of money. He says, "I'll give you your ksuba is worth $10,000. I'll give you $1,000." Now who knows? It might be wasted money. So what happened was he garsha. She was divorced, which actually means she was awarded. She has the rights to her ksuba, and then she passed away. So the husband was still alive, but she was divorced. So she's rights to the ksuba. So the buyers came. They were claiming from the daughter who was trying to collect her mother's ksuba from her father, and to inherit the ksuba because her mother had the right to get the ksuba. So the daughter who inherited her mother was trying to collect from her father. Now these creditors, these buyers, will come in to take it from her, to say, "Your mother sold it to us." So Amalahu Rav Nachman said to them, is there no one that's going to find ideas for my relative's daughter that she shouldn't lose out the ksuba that her mother sold off to these buyers? So the Gemara continues up at Pevam and Aleph. Tezel, in other words, so he said, Tezel b'tichel l'ksuba sadima. He says, let her go and be meichel her mother's ksuba l'gabi avur to her father. This is exactly directly related to what we just said. We said that even a Yairish could be meichel, and the mother of this girl sold to them a shtar chayv that she had on her husband. So it's just like the case of a loan. So she could be meichel the loan, so to speak, of her mother to the father, and the Yerush could be meichel that, and b'tir seminei, and then she'll yarshin it from her father, not from her mother.
I thought he paid it already.
What? No, he didn't pay it. He just owed it from when she got divorced. Now the daughter wanted to collect it from her father, through her mother. But then they're going to collect it from her. So there's no problem. He said, let her be meichelit to the father, and then she'll inherit it from her father. So Shamashi heard this, and also Achel, she went to his meichelit. So Rav Nachman says, Oive, what do we do? We made ourselves like lawyers, like a toinim, like a relative of the litigant or a friend that comes to the judges and tries to come up with ways to merit for their relative or their friend. So too, I came up with this idea to cause a loss for the collectors. So the Gemara says, Meikara, in the beginning, when he originally came up with this idea, Maisa, what did he hold? That he was thinking we have to find a way for his relative. But at the end, when he regretted, Maisa, what did he hold? So this is Meikara, so in the beginning he thought, like the Pasuk says in Yeshaya, from your relatives, from your own flesh, you shouldn't turn the blind eye. You have to come up with ways to help them. But any Adam Chashav Shani, a respected, distinguished individual is different because they're going to learn from him. And everyone's going to do that for even people that are not their relatives. And because of that, he held that was going to be inappropriate. Let's just finish up this teaching. It just finishes up this whole topic of Gufa. We quoted Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said, if someone sells a document of a debt that's owed to him, and he sells that, the lender says it to someone else. And we said it's and then he goes in these moichlets. He said it's going to be pardoned. Even that the lender's Yershim could be moichlet. That Amrapun Rabbi Shloimy says, now if the one who bought this loan document is smart, because he might lose out because the lender or his Yershim might be moichlet, what he should do is mekarkish leizuzeh. What he should do is he should shake some coins to the borrower and rent him that because of leishtara b'shmei, that he should, before they come up with this idea between the lender and the borrower to say, look, I sold it to someone else, I'll just cut him out and I'll be moichel you. He should have him write a document in his name because he sees that he has the document. So he knows that he owes it to him. So he says, no problem, just write me a new document. Because he's like, here for $10, I'll give you $20, he'll go buy some Coke. So try to get him to write it to you, then the lender can't be moichel no, because you became the new creditor. Meimar says, and Tais discusses, so therefore how does this relate to the previous story? It says, Man dedoin, whoever judges and holds that there's a liability for dina digarmi. Dina digarmi is if you cause indirectly a loss to someone else, then magvi bay, you could collect with this document from the one who's moichlet, the full amount of the money. Meaning whatever the amount of the debt was, so though you sold me, you had a $10,000 document, you sold it to me for $8,000, and now you go and you moichel to that person. You say, okay, it's moichel. But if you don't during the gami, you caused me a huge loss of money, you have to pay me back now that amount. But a man deloy during the gami, whoever does not hold that you're liable for din the gami, which in the last paragraph of the Zayin Beis, and the mayor holds that you are down din the gami, which you hold like him. But if you don't down din the gami, then then all you collect is a piece of paper. In other words, you can tell him, I only sold you a piece of paper, and you still have it. However, there was a story about B'Kafir Daf from Ravashi. Rafram forced Ravashi, meaning the court case came up with Ravashi, and he brought him a whole bunch of proofs, and he surrounded him that the Agvibe that he collected from the laws of Garmi, Kikashudal Tzalmid. In other words, he collected every penny, whatever the loss, every money that he made him collect. Meaning, what does it mean? As precise as someone who buys a beam, that you have to have certain figures and dimensions, and that you want it exactly. Like, someone says, no, that's not what I ordered, I want it exactly this. That's exactly how much you made him pay up every single penny because of Dina de Garmi, because again, we paskin like that you chayav Dina de Garmi. That's what Tais discusses, what was Rav Nachman bothered with in the previous story. What do you mean? What are you going to be Michael? But you don't, Rav Nachman himself is John Dina de Garmi, so what are you really gaining by being Michael that you hold up creating a loss for that person? So Tais discussing what that would be. Thank you for any time.